Within an hour after landing, the Navy had us outside and ready to see both jets and helicopters take off from the USS Abraham Lincoln. The jets were all queued up and the helo was ready to go, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. Flight operations had been canceled because of the weather. We were out on the deck getting ready to get the video of planes taking off and a helicopter taking off, but the winds came up to 60 knots, and so they parked the planes. I was bummed at a couple of levels. First, I was afraid the story was not going to meet your expectations. Who goes to an aircraft carrier and doesn't gather flight activity, right? And then personally, I really wanted to see it. I've been a bit of a aircraft carrier fan ever since high school. I did a lot of reading about them, World War II vintage aircraft carriers. All right, so I'm on the fantail, which is the very back of the ship. I mean, we're looking back off the back of the ship right now. You can see the water pouring off of the flight deck above me. And this has been the situation ever since we got on board. We have been in this suit. But there hasn't been any flight operations, unfortunately, so we wanted to really see a lot of the excitement of the jets landing and taking off and all of that. And that hasn't been the case, but obviously there's nothing you can do about it. But I was just talking to the OPSO, which is the operations commander on the ship, and he was explaining part of the problem is that even if they could land, the airbase back in Norfolk or some of the other places that the pilot might have to divert to if they got into trouble have also been socked in, so there weren't any other options for the pilots, and that's one of the reasons that they haven't been able to fly. But that night we did get word that a helo was practicing some night landings. It's no jet, but we said, well, we'd take it, and we did our best to capture what action there was at night in the rain. We only had 24 hours on the ship, and the next morning the weather was no better. In fact, I'd say it was worse. Stand up right here on the deck right now. How bad the weather is. So we were in the waiting room, prepared to leave, and watching the COD come in to drop off a load and then take us back to shore when there was a delay. The COD needed repairs. And then divine intervention. Flight operations were resuming, and we rushed back to the flight deck. Okay, it looks like we may get to see a plane take off after all. We were waiting for our airplane, and all of a sudden they came and got us after a significant delay and said, well, while you're waiting, we're resuming flight operations. So we're going now. I think a helicopter's going to take off. First, we watched a helo, a Sierra, take off, and then it was the jets. Now the weather was even worse than before, and none of us had had time to put on rain gear, but it was so exciting that no one seemed to care, and we literally were getting drenched. We watched the jets pull out, folding down their wings as they got into position. The flight crew showed amazing patience, checking and rechecking everything despite the weather and wind. Of course, their hand signals are important to the process, but just like in the movies, to us, at least to me, they were entertaining. And we were really close. I want to say less than 40 or 50 feet from the wingtip, but everything is so closely controlled that nobody seemed to have any concern. We were right there with the flight crews. Then a guy called the shooter tells the pilot to give it some power. He ducks down and points down the runway, and just a few moments later, the jet is gone. I wasn't ready for the shaking my body felt when the jet released, but as they took off into the sky, neither was I disappointed. This was everything it's billed to be.